Days seem sometimes as if they'll never end. Sun digs its heels to dawn too, but after sunlit days, one thing stays the same. Rises the moon. Days fade into a watercolor blue. Memories swim and haunt you, but look into the lake, shimmering like smoke. Rises the moon.
Hello everyone! Today I have another fun color challenge and I'm really excited because it is brown. Brown is one of my favorite colors, and when pairing it with the theme of dark academia, I'm really happy and excited, and I think this is going to be really fun. So with all that said, let's go ahead and get started. The academia aesthetic in terms of fashion, whether it's light, brown, dark, chaotic, etc., consists of many different types of wool sweaters, scarves, plaid pants and skirts, messenger bags, blazers, collared skirts, and loafers. Color palettes tend to range depending on whether it's light or dark academia, but the main color that is consistent in all the palettes is variations of brown. So I already know what I'm going to be doing in this video because the place that I order yarn from is located in London, I believe, so it takes a lot of time for it to get here. So I had to think and plan of what I wanted to do beforehand, and I'm just going to brief you through it real quick before we actually get started with the pieces. So the first piece that I want to make is a basic sweater, but it's going to be ribbed, kind of like the sweater I did in my pink crochet video, except it's going to be a full sweater instead of off the shoulder. It is going to be a 100% wool sweater, and I think this counts as brown, right? I hope so. It's more in like the beige category, but I think this counts as brown, so I'm going to do this for that. The next piece I thought would be really cute and would work in the dark academia theme is a scarf, and I thought a color palette like this right here, and what I'm thinking of doing is working in like maybe chaining 200 or something, and then working vertically instead of horizontally, and whenever I finish a row I switch a color, and I just keep doing that until the scarf is the length that I want it to be. The next piece I'm going to be doing is a beret. The last time I made a beret was earlier this year when my friend was hosting a Sanrio party, and I didn't do it correctly, and after weaving in the top it kind of came apart, so I was like, okay, I want to redo a beret with this color, and I want to do it correctly this time. I have a tutorial on how I do berets on my channel, but that's pretty old, so I want to see how I do it this time. I'm going to use that tutorial, but at the same time see if I have to change things or not. And the last piece that I'm going to be doing, which is probably going to be the hardest piece in the video, is an Argyle sweater vest. And after I drew this out, I realized that it kind of looks like the one that I'm wearing now, which would be cool. So I have like a vest version of this sweater here. But yeah, essentially it's going to be either this colorway or this colorway. I'm not sure if I want the accent colors to be the light brown or the dark brown. So yeah, I have the projects that I want to do for this video. I have the yarn, and now it's time to go ahead and get started. The first piece I'm starting with is the ribbed sweater. I also was thinking that this sweater might be a little bit too plain because I have this plain solid color sweater and I'm going to be doing a solid color beret later, and I was like, I feel like I should have more of a variety in terms of like adding more uniqueness to the piece. But then I thought that this is actually okay because I think it'll be good to have some plain pieces in my wardrobe, especially for dark academia where you can like pair the basic sweater with plaid pants or a plaid skirt or a unique pair of pants or something like that, and just really use everything else in the wardrobe to accentuate it while having like a basic sweater. And maybe like for the beret that I'm going to be doing later, I could add like a ribbon or tiny like pins and accessories to spice it up, because I was like feeling kind of bad where like I was like, oh, this video might be too plain, but it's good to have basics in your wardrobe and I don't really have any basic solid color sweaters that I've made besides maybe 1 or 2. So I think it's good to go ahead and make this. But yeah, I started with a chain of 71 and I'm using a 4.5mm hook. And then for the first row, I'm just going to be doing regular half double crochets all down the row. So as I said, I first worked half double crochets down the entire row. At the end, I chained 1 and turned my work. For the remainder of the project, I only worked normal half double crochets in the back loop only from rows 2 to 20. So far I've done 20 rows and this is what it's looking like right now. I wanted to be slightly off the shoulder just to make it look a little bit baggy, and it looks pretty rigid, but I am gonna block it afterwards, so it's gonna be slightly longer and more soft and everything. And then what I'm gonna do for the neckline area is I'm going to decrease, and then when it gets to like right here, I'm just gonna work regular rows, and then right here I'm going to increase. So I'm basically just making like a sort of a U shape to create the little neckline, and then later on I'm gonna go ahead and add a collar to it. I'm gonna do 5 more rows, and once I get to row 25, I'm gonna go ahead and start the decreases. After adding 5 more rows, I worked down row 26 until there was 8 stitches left. I then decreased into the next 2 stitches, chained 1, and turned my work. For row 27, I decreased in the first 2 stitches and worked the row normally, still in the back loops. Once I reached the end of the row, I chained 1, turned my work, and worked row 28 normally until the last 2 stitches. In the last 2 stitches, I decreased into them, chained 1, and turned my work, and worked a decrease into the first 2 stitches. I repeated this, working decreases into the last 2 stitches of a row and then the first 2 stitches of a row until I finished row 32. I just finished the decreases for the neckline, and I just wanted to show you what it looks like for me. I'm making the decreases until like underneath my collarbone, and or like just above it, wherever this goes. It's like right here. I did about a total of 6 decreases from row 27 to row 32, and now I'm just gonna work regular rows until it reaches like right here, and then I'm gonna go ahead and increase to add another shoulder, and then work regular rows like I did in the beginning, and that will be the front panel and the back panel. So from here to whatever row I end up going to, that's just gonna be regular rows to right here, and then I'm gonna increase, and then yeah. After I finished 5 rows of regular half double crochet in the back loop, I worked up row 38 until the last stitch. In that stitch, I worked 2 half double crochets in the back loop to increase. I then chained 1, turned my work, and then increased again into the first stitch before working the row normally. At the end of that row, I chained 1, turned my work, and worked up to the last stitch. Again, I increased into the last stitch, chained 1, turned my work, increased into the first stitch before working the row normally. Here's a little chart of the amount of rows I did for my size. You can add more decreases or less depending on your personal preference, but this is just what I ended up doing for me. Once I got to the end of row 43, I increased into the stitch and then chained 7. I chained 7 because there was a total of 6 stitches left where I started decreasing, and whenever you chain a certain amount, one of the chains goes away. After, I turned my work and worked down the chain into the body of the sweater, continuing on until I finished a total of 68 rows. Here is the front panel in its entirety. It's a bit shorter than I thought it was going to be. Like if I put it right here, it stops at my belly button. and so I'm thinking it might be cropped, and I wasn't trying to go for a cropped look. However, I'm gonna continue working on it, and hopefully blocking it does something, but I always tend to forget that when I do rib stitch it kind of makes it look smaller, but I still think it'll come out cute. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a break and then go ahead and make the back panel. I worked on the back panel, and when it was done, started on the arm. For the arm, I chained 59, which was a good length for the sleeve based on where the body of the sweater landed on my arm. I then worked normal rows of half double crochet in the back loop only for a total of 34 rows, and after, it was time to attach all the panels together. I first slip stitched the shoulders of the front and back panels together. Once that was complete, I took the arm panel and counted down to the middle stitch before taking a stitch marker and attaching it to where the front and back panels attached. I then slip stitched down the arm to attach it to the body. When that was done, I folded the arm in half and then attached a stitch marker to the armpit to make sure everything was aligned before adding more stitch markers up the arm and the sides of the sweater. I then slip stitched the sides together and the sweater was completely attached. The next day I worked on the cuffs and the neck sections of the sweater. To do the arm cuffs, all I did was attach my yarn, chain 8, work down the chain with half double crochet, and once I got to the bottom of the chain, I slip stitched into the next 3 stitches. After the slip stitches, I turned my work and worked into the back loops of the row I just did. At the end, I chained 1 and repeated this for the entire cuff. Once all the cuff was complete, I slip stitched both sides together and tied off. For the next section, I repeated the exact same thing I did for the arm cuffs. After I was finished with the ribbings for the sweater, I went ahead and blocked it so that it would be softer to wear. I put the sweater on the blocking boards and I only pinned down the bottom and the shoulder areas because the arms are looking really long, and I'm really scared that it's going to be way longer than I want it to be because for some reason I'm just always making very long and oversized sleeves whether I like it or not. So I'm just gonna leave them as they are. I'm not gonna pin them down or anything, and hopefully they're not as long as it looks. Here is what the sweater looks like all complete. I am really happy about it, and before I get to the parts that I don't like, I just want to say that me blocking the sweater was probably the best decision for this, because before I blocked it, it was very like rigid and stiff and short. It was way shorter than I thought it was going to be, because usually when I work in rib stitch, I tend to forget that when I work in rib stitch, it looks kind of smaller than it would with regular stitches. So the length was a lot shorter, and I blocked it and it came out so beautifully. Like it's so flowy and drapey, and it's a lot longer than how it looked before, so I'm able to tuck it in if I want to, and it's really soft. Like the wool was a bit rough using it also, but now it's very soft and the stitches all look really even, and I'm really happy with how this came out. Now the only thing that I don't like is, if you know me, and when I make sweaters, I tend to make the arms a bit big, and this unfortunately was no exception. Thankfully it's not as dramatic as my Rory Gilmore sweater. That was just an atrocity that I don't even know why I posted that, but you know, it's progress. We do these things to learn, you know. But I wanted it to stop like right here, and that's where it did before I blocked it, and when I did block it, the arms got a lot longer, so I didn't pin the arms down because I knew if I pinned them down, they would get even longer, and thankfully this isn't that bad. And I can roll it up and it looks really cute rolled up, so I'm fine with it. Another thing is like how I was saying that I was worried that making a basic piece would be kind of boring, but I am happy that I did the basic piece because this can go with so many pieces now, and this could be like a nice balance between like really unique pants or a really unique undershirt or something like that. So I'm pretty happy with it. And I think this is pretty on theme. Like, this could definitely work in the light academia realm. I could have paired it with a white turtleneck, but I think the black one looks better, especially when pairing it with my bag. And here's like a little full video of what the whole outfit would look like and stuff like that. And yeah. Here is the color scheme that I'm thinking of doing for the scarf. I'm kind of thinking of taking this one out and maybe repeating the brown right here, just to have some more brown in the mix. But I am first gonna go ahead and get started with this one here. For the scarf, I first chained 151. I tried the chain on around my neck to see if it was the length I wanted, and when it was, I went ahead and worked 1/2 double crochet into each stitch until the end of the row. At the end of the row, I attached my next color and turned my work, repeating working down the row with 1/2 double crochet. I continued doing this, making sure to switch the color at the end of every row until I had a total of 18 rows. Then the scarf was complete. The next piece that I finished is this scarf. This was probably like the shortest thing in this video because it's pretty simple. Like, you just work back and forth until it's wide enough to how you like it, weave in all your ends, and you're done. I think this really works with the academia aesthetic because it's like throwing on your scarf before you head to your favorite professor's class while it's really brisk outside, and after the class you have to go grab a cup of tea or something like that. Hopefully this works in the brown crochet because I feel like the red takes a lot of attention away from the browns, but they all kind of work together, which I really like. And you can style this numerous ways how you would usually style a scarf. You can style it like this. You can just throw it on and throw it over your shoulder like that. You could twist it underneath. Ooh. You can twist it underneath and do something like that. Whatever way that you like to wear scarves, you can do that. But yeah. The next project for my academia theme was the beret. To start the beret, I first started with the magic circle. After creating the magic circle, I chained 2 and then double crocheted 12 stitches into the middle of the circle. After pulling the tail to close the gap, once the stitches were complete, I slip stitched into the first stitch of the row and chained 2. For the first row of the beret, I worked 2 double crochets into every stitch. At the end, there should be 24 stitches total. To finish the first row, I slip stitched into the first stitch of the row and then chained 2. For the second row, I worked 2 double crochets into every second stitch. So for the first stitch, I did 1 regular double crochet, but in the second stitch, I did 2 double crochets in the same stitch. At the end of the row, I had 36 stitches and then slip stitched into the first stitch of the row and chained 2. Here's a pattern I followed for the rest of the increase sections since it's pretty repetitive. While I worked on the beret, I listened to Portals by Melanie Martinez for the first time, and it was pretty cool. My favorite song from the album was Fairy Soiree. It reminded me a lot of Imogen Heap, which is another artist that I really like. And I also liked Moon Cycle, and the guitar in Powder was absolutely perfect. After I finished the 9th row, I had a total of 108 stitches. For the next 2 rows, I did regular double crochet. On row 12, I crocheted until I got to the 7th stitch. At the 7th stitch, I added 1 double crochet decrease into the 7th stitch and the 8th stitch. I repeated this in every 7th stitch and did the same for row 13, which was a decrease in every 6th stitch, and row 14, which was a decrease in every 3rd stitch. Then I single crocheted for 4 rows. After the 4 rows of single crochet, I did 1 row of slip stitches, and at the end of the row, slip stitched into the first slip stitch, chain 1, cut the yarn, and pull to secure. Then my beret was complete. The next piece I have to show is this beret. I've been trying to figure out how I want to style it. Like, should I put it this way or this way? But it doesn't really matter. I think that's the cool thing about the berets is like, however you want it to look, it'll look cute no matter what you choose. But yeah, I thought this would be cool for this theme because it gives off student who's studying French literature and minoring in music or something like that. I don't know. And it's really cute. It's another basic piece that I decided to do with the brown. And I don't have anything else to say about it, unfortunately. I do want to see what it looks like with my scarf though. This is kind of cute. Okay, I like it a lot. I made a beret in the past, like in my crochet hat video, and I was working with that pattern for this hat, but I don't know why I didn't show it in this video, but I made this hat. It came out so much bigger than I wanted it to, and I was really confused because I was following all of the steps that I did in my video, and I think the main thing was just the yarn that I was using was slightly different. Even though they were both a weight 4, this one was a bit chunkier than the one I did in my hat video, so it came out a lot larger. All I had to do was just take off a couple of rows and then go ahead with the decreases and then working like the bottom part of it, and then it was fine. But yep, this is the hat right here. And I like it. The last project I worked on was my Argyle sweater vest. To start the vest, I made a chain of 51, which gave me the width that I personally wanted for the vest. I then worked 2 rows of single crochet. I just finished doing 2 rows of single crochet and also finished labeling how many stitches I have to do with which color. So basically for the sweater, I'm going to be doing these green diamonds as the dark brown and then the beige diamonds as the light brown color. And then these little boxes right here, I'm contemplating whether I should make them both white or do the blue square as white and then do a black square. I might just do it white to make it easier on myself, but I think the black would be cool. So I'll just figure that out as I go. I mean, I kind of have to figure it out now because it's the first thing that I do. The graph stopped at 36, so I just added another photo of the graph and pushed it forward to how many stitches that I needed. And also I added a stitch marker to the second stitch on both sides just so I have the chance to switch colors easier when I do certain rows where, like for example, if I have to switch to this one automatically, I prefer to switch on the second stitch rather than the first. It's not a requirement, it's just what I prefer. So I'm gonna go ahead and start working on the graph, and then I'm gonna keep working up until it gets to a length that I like, so then I can start the armholes and stuff. For the first row of the pattern, which is worked from right to left and is the right side of the project, it says to do 1 square with white and then 8 squares with the brown. So I first worked half a single crochet before adding my white to the hook to finish the single crochet. Doing this adds the color before you need to, so the color changes can be a lot cleaner. I worked half a single crochet into the stitch marker stitch before taking my brown and using it to finish the single crochet. I then placed the stitch marker in the new stitch before working single crochet down the row for 7 stitches. On the 8th stitch, I had to switch to my next color, which is the lighter brown. I added that to finish the single crochet and then did half a single crochet in the next stitch that required the light brown color. The next 8 stitches are with the brown, so I took my brown and used that to finish the single crochet before working 7 stitches down. The graph says that I need to use my white again, but because it's far away, I cut an incredibly long tail for the white that's already in the project so I can use that for that section that it's in. I then take a new strand of white and attach it to the middle of the project. I repeated these steps, making sure to follow the graph exactly. Once I got to the last stitches of the graph, I worked them normally, added my stitch marker to the new stitch, and finished my row. I chained 1, turned my work, and began row 2. For an in-depth explanation on graphs, I linked an amazing tutorial in the description box below. This is what I have of the sweater vest so far. I haven't been really recording my process because it's very intricate and it takes a lot of focusing, and sometimes like I had to go back a couple times just to fix my mistakes and stuff. But so far it's looking cool, and yeah. Once I got to row 35, I started with the arm decreases since the front panel was around the length that I liked, which was 9.5 inches. For the decreases, all I did was decrease on every side of the project and then continued working on the graph as normal. Here I reached the last 2 stitches of the row. I decreased in them, turned my work, decreased in the first 2 stitches, and continued working on the next row of the graph. On row 39, I counted down to the middle of the front panel and added stitch markers to the stitches and the 2 middle stitches. This indicated where I would decrease for the V-neck area. For the first shoulder, I first did my decreases in the beginning of the row, then worked down while working what the graph told me to do, and when I reached the last 2 stitches, in which the last stitch had the first stitch marker, I decreased into both, taking the stitch marker out and then turning my work. I decreased in the first 2 stitches, then worked the row normally after that. I kept working on the first shoulder, decreasing on the first 2 stitches and in the middle on each row until I reached row 45. While doing this, I rewatched High Fidelity since recently I've been analyzing my favorite characters' fashion for inspiration for my own wardrobe, and it's been incredibly fun. On row 46, I worked the shoulder normally with no decreases until I reached row 60. I then tied off and did the same thing to the other shoulder. Once the front panel was complete, I worked on the back panel, which was just a dark brown color, which was a lot easier and faster, in my opinion. I used the exact same chain amount, which was a chain of 51, and worked up until I finished row 60. I just finished the front panel and the back panel, and I'm really happy because we're almost done with this vest. So all I'm gonna do now is weave in all of these ends and then go ahead and slip stitch these together, and I'm only going to slip stitch the sides together and then the shoulder part onto the other shoulder, and so that's going to leave out the little armholes on both sides and the little hole for my head. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and get to work. After weaving in all the ends, I placed the right sides of the panels together and slip stitched the sides and the shoulders together, leaving out the neck area and the armholes. Once those were slip stitched together, I tried on the vest and was happy with how it was coming out. I then began to work on the ribbing. For the neck and the arm sections, I attached my dark brown color and chained 4. I then worked down the chain with single crochet, then slip stitched into the next 3 stitches before turning my work and working single crochet up the chain in the back loops only. Once I reached the top, I chained 1, turned my work, and repeated the previous steps of working into the back loops until the end and then slip stitching into the next 3 stitches. For the collar section in particular, once I got to where the beginning of the ribbing started, I used my tapestry needle to sew through the 2 together properly, starting from the top and then towards the bottom so that it would look like a V-neck and not a square. For the arm ribbing, once I was finished with the ribbing all around, I just slip stitched the ends together since it didn't matter if it looked like a V or not. I made sure to slip stitch in the inside though so it won't show the seam on the outside of the sweater. For the bottom ribbing, I did the exact same thing except with the chain of 7 instead, just to make the bottom ribbing a tad bit longer. Once everything was done and I had weaved in all my ends, I blocked my sweater to make it feel and look better, and then it was complete. The last piece I have to show is my Argyle sweater vest. This one I saved for last because I was kind of scared of how it was going to turn out, but I'm really happy with how it came out, and I'm pretty proud of myself for figuring out how to do the pattern as well as adding in the decreases and everything. I paired it with this little frilly top that I got from Depop, and I'm also wearing some boots to go with it. And I feel like this could be for fashion academia maybe, or something like that. I think that's a thing. It's a thing now, if it isn't. When I first put it on before blocking it, I was like, this is nice, but I know it's gonna be better when I block it, and I was right. Blocking it really saved it. It's easy to put on. It's not stiff in any way on the arms or anything. And this is what the back is looking like. and I'm really happy with how it all turned out. It's really cute and there's not much else to say about it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope all of these pieces really fit the theme of academia, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!